Well, I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me?
We can talk, but money talk, so talk more about.
Yeah, welcome to the Ash Cash Show. Every Sunday, Whcr 90.3 FM, New York, the voice of Harlem with Ash Cash and Tashima Jones.
Hello.
Hey, Ms. Jones, how are you today?
All is well. Happy to be here as always.
So today, you know, we have a great show. As always, we always have a great show lined up for you.
Think so.
But today we're going to talk about positive mental attitude. That's the second law of financial freedom. And we'll start off the show with the daily word. So happy Sunday, my movers and shakers. Welcome to the day that you realize that you are the master of your fate and the dictator of all circumstances. Today's daily word is dedicated to fixing your mind. Your fears, your doubt, the haters, the naysayers, the backstabbers, the stealers of dreams, and the blockers of success are all in your mind. This might be hard to accept, but the fact of the matter is that all the negative things that are currently existing in your life were created by you. You allow that energy space into your life to even exist. The moment you stop feeding your fears, they stop growing. The moment you stop accepting no as an answer is the moment you begin to get everything you want out of life. Get out of your own way. As Sally Kempton so eloquently put it, it is hard to fight an enemy who has outposts in your head. What you think is what you get. Think negative and get negative results. Think positive and get positive results. Don't think at all and get whatever life throws at you. Stop being at the mercy of yourself. Get your mind right and do everything in your power to take back control. It is absolutely unacceptable to not live out life to the fullest extent possible. Forget mediocrity and live an abundant life. And as a good friend once told me, if you keep chasing mice, you'll never be able to catch lions. Catch the lions and take what you deserve, because nothing can stop you but you. I'll leave you with a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, and it says, "A man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes." So again, today, you know, appreciate it. We're talking about the positive mental attitude. But before we get into that, what's going on, Ms. TJ?
Everything is good. I actually wanted to talk about a conversation I had with Mr. Eric Thomas. Secretly, I call him Uncle E.T.
Uncle E.T., okay.
He's a pretty awesome
the
guy.
hip-hop preacher.
Yes. So I actually had the honor of interviewing him a few years ago. And one of the questions I asked was, how do you know your purpose and how do you know you're on the right path? You know, so often I come across people from 18 to 70 who have no clue as to what they were put on earth to do. And what he told me was that after launching out on whatever enterprise or vision you believe is your calling, you'll know when you're on the right path when his way of explaining it was when all of the cherries, berries, and the bananas line up right. Nice. You know, on the slot machine, when you get 777, you know. And I think it really explains that whole adage of everything just fell into place. I believe, you know, that when you're on the right path, you have everything that you need. As you go, everything will meet you. So just understanding your purpose, understanding your call, understanding why you were here is one of the greatest feelings to have. It's just like oxygen. I feel like if I wasn't on the right path, the oxygen levels would be a little different. You know how you breathe in the oxygen, you let go of the carbon dioxide?
Right.
Like, I really feel like each of us have that purpose. Each of us have this specific path carved out for us. And one of the most rewarding things is knowing that path and following it. So, you know, those one of the conversations that I actually had.
Nice.
And it's inspiring, motivating, and I think it just raises your awareness as to going after what you were here to do and actually doing it.
No, absolutely. And, you know, a lot of times when we talk about, you know, knowing your purpose, knowing, you know, when you're on the right path, you know, we talk about positive mental attitude, right? You know, being in the right space. But how do you do that? And that's the question that we're posing today. Do you believe that having a positive mental attitude, does that affect your success in any kind of way? Or is it just is it just bull? Like, is that not,
myth?
Yeah, is it a myth?
Is it possible?
Is it not true? Right.
You know, is it even possible, especially with everything that's going on in the world today? Not even world issues, but, you know, domestic issues, so much can nip at your perspective. And actually believing that, like you said, posing that question, do you even believe that having a positive mental attitude, number one, does it exist? And number two, can you actually obtain it? And then,
and it's funny because it's tough, right?
Yes.
So I'm a big believer. For a very, very long time, I started to believe that your thoughts become things. And as I changed my mindset into understanding that your thoughts become things, I started to focus on positivity more. And as a result, and this is my personal testimony, as a result, positive things started to happen for me. And my life, I purposely do not watch the news. I don't watch television. I do watch certain shows, but I do it on Hulu, just because I can control what I'm being fed.
Exactly.
And I kind of feel like the media does a great job of feeding you what it wants to feed you. But recently I've been finding myself angry, and rightly so, because when you think about all of the things that are happening, just for those who have never seen me in real life, I know I sound like a teddy bear, right? But I am a 6'3", 200 plus. I won't give you how much, right? But I am a 6'3", 200 plus. I look like a linebacker. I look like I either wrestle or I play some type of football, right? And so I know what it's like to grow up as a black man and have people intimidated by you. So even when I'm in corporate settings, I make sure, I do the Magic Johnson, right? If you look at Magic Johnson, he's a big, towering man as well, but he always looks happy. He's like a happy guy. And I do my best to look happy and to, not look threatening. But it's tough to be positive nowadays when you think about all these things that are happening. I stayed away from the television and all that stuff, but, I recently... It finds you. I recently heard about the man in Baltimore who came to New York and killed 2 cops, and rest in peace to the cops, and rest in peace to him as well, because he took his own life. And I just I just have a belief system that no one should take anyone's life, and all lives matter, but I do think that no one should take anyone's life. So it's very difficult in some spaces to think positive.
Yes.
So we want to tackle that today. If you have any questions, call in 212-650-6903. Tell us your thoughts as well, because I want to know, as a financial literacy expert, as a financial expert, personal finance expert, I want to know, what are your thoughts? Do you really think that having a positive mental attitude, is that correlated to your success, or is it not correlated to your success? So we're going to take a quick music break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about having a positive mental attitude.
I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. So good, so good. I got you. Wow, I feel nice. The sugar is fine. I feel nice. The sugar is fine. So nice, so nice. I got you. When I hold you in my arms, I know that I can't do no wrong. And when I hold you in my arms, my love won't do you no harm. And I feel nice. That sugar is fine. I feel nice. That sugar is fine. So nice, so nice. I got you. When I hold you in my arms, I know that I can't do no wrong. And when I hold you in my arms, my love can't do me no harm. And I got you, wow, I feel good. I knew that I would not. I feel good. I knew that I would. So good, so good, 'cause I got you. So good, 'cause I got you. So good, 'cause I got you.
I feel good.
Yes, me too.
So welcome back to Ash Cash Show with Ash Cash and Tashima Jones every Sunday, 1 p.m. on WHCR 90.3 FM. So let's see what the what the callers have to say. Hi, caller. You are on the air with Ash Cash and Tashima Jones.
Yes, my name is Barry from Harlem. It is to have a positive attitude, and it's a reality. Because when you have a positive attitude, when you have it, it's catching.
Absolutely.
It fills the room. It also sets a pleasant atmosphere to make other people more susceptible to speak to you on a normal basis. If you didn't have the positive attitude, they would stay away or shun away because of the energy that you're bringing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Appreciate that, Barry. Thank you for the call. And that's a great point, right? Because there's a book. Dale Carnegie has a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I actually read the book once a year. I just finished reading it not too long ago. And he talks about that. He talks about having a pleasing personality, right? Having, when you have a pleasing personality, and that stems from having a positive mentality, like a positive mental attitude, like your mentality and how you think is going to dictate how you act and react to things, right?
Definitely. And, it's so interesting because we are discovering the correlation between your attitude and behaviors and what it can accomplish. The caller mentioned the energy, the atmosphere. I always say that if human beings weren't on Earth, it would be totally different. And we have to recognize our power to influence the things around us and the people around us. And it all starts with your mental faculties, I believe, with your perspective and your philosophy towards everyday life. So having, being mindful of the atmosphere, of the attraction, he even mentioned being able to attract certain things. We have so many elements that you can find in Earth that we don't recognize that we literally attract things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and it definitely is stemmed from your thought process.
And let me be clear, right? So I want to define what having a positive mental attitude is, because I think a lot of times when people say positive mental attitude or they think about having a positive mental attitude, they sort of feel like we mean kumbaya, like everybody's walking around with their, holding hands, with open-toe sandals and stuff, right? A positive mental attitude is just really about your viewpoint. It's really about perspective. It's about how do you view things. It's like, I don't believe there is positive and negative, and let me be clear about what I mean by that. Everything is all perception. So if something that is normally perceived as being negative, if it happens and you look at it as being negative, then you will, you're thinking negatively, right? And it will affect you negatively. But if something that happens and you just accept it as something that is part of life and as something that's trying to teach you something, then your perspective will be different, right? So let's say, for instance, and I'll just use a relationship just to I don't want to use anything too drastic. Let's use a relationship. Let's say you were in a relationship with somebody and, the person cheats on you or the person does something or whatever the case may be. You can look at that as a negative and say, oh my God, this person, cheated on me. This person did whatever. And my life is over or whatever. Right. But you can also say that this person wasn't the right person for you. Right. And that the universe, God, whatever you believe in is showing you that there's better out there for you. And it's freeing you up from what was holding you back. And I look at the same, this is a finance show, so I look at it the same way as a job. Every time, and people, I had someone come to me one time and they were like, yeah, I just lost my job. But they said it, in a sorry sort of way. And I had a little background, so I knew that this person really didn't want to be there anyway. So I said, congratulations. I said, congratulations. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what do you mean, congratulations? I just lost my job. But for me, just from a perspective standpoint, I look at it as a way for that person who actually wants to be an entrepreneur, wants to do something different. I look at that as God, the universe, saying, listen, you didn't want to leave on your own, so I'm going to force you out. But now if you look at it from a positive, right, if you have a positive mental attitude and look at it and say, now that I don't have this job that's holding me back, I can put all of my energy into the things that I actually want to do, which is being an entrepreneur. That's
really, really good. It's so funny because I was thinking about this, how sometimes we have to be forced out of situations we know we're not supposed to be in. So life is always speaking to us. And just to piggyback on your definition of a positive mental attitude, just go into the foundation of your mental attitude, not setting aside positive, setting aside negative, just your mental attitude in general. I had the kids over the weekend. We played a self-control game where it's like I tell them to do something and they have to do it, and at the end of that game I let them realize that the only way your body reacted, it was because your mind told it what to do. So I think in life, in those intangible situations, we have the ability to shape our perspective, the glass full, glass empty type of ordeal, and choosing to set your eyes on the things that are good and how the things that aren't so favorable, how you can use those to aid you, to assist you. Like you said, life is always speaking to us. Oprah says, answer when the pebble hits you. Don't wait until the break comes. So really setting those standards for your thought life, that's so important, your thought life. Because sometimes you could be in a crowded room and you have some crazy thoughts running through your head. You know what I mean? And I always say you are not your thoughts. You only become the thoughts that you meditate on. Because we have so many things. One person said you can't stop the bird from flying over your head, but you can stop it from building a nest in it. And it's like you choose those thoughts you want to meditate on, and then eventually you become those thoughts. Your life, the things that you attract, the energy that you exude, they all are a compilation of the thoughts that you are actually thinking about every single day. And I'm actually at this place in my life where I want to elevate my thinking, because when you look back, it's like, do I have the same thoughts I was having since 16? Something has to change. And that's another aspect of, your mental attitude. Just the shape of your thoughts, or have your thoughts even graduated? Have they matured? If you want something, oftentimes people want things, but they don't align their thoughts to match up to getting that thing, whether it be finances, a relationship, etc. I was actually reading this article from a financial advisor, and it spoke about how thinking positively can affect your finances. And it starts with, what are your thoughts? Think about what you're thinking about. Take account, and responsibility for the thoughts that you've been having, and then elevate those things to saying, this is possible. It talks about how the idea of being a millionaire when you are not even a thousandaire, that might seem huge. But when you say, I'm going to save this amount of money in this time, that kind of breaks it up and it makes it more possible. It makes it, appear to be like obtainable. Setting those goals and then aligning your thoughts with the actions that it would take to actually getting you there. So having a positive mental attitude is not necessarily, like you mentioned, roses, all roses. It's really how you deal with the thoughts that you are actually having.
And you make a good point also that I wanted to touch on, is that and if anybody saw the movie The Secret, that talks about law of attraction, and there are a lot of naysayers that say it doesn't work, that and that's why, again, if you have that point of view, I would love to hear it. 212-650-6903. But whether it's the Bible, whether it's the law of attraction, faith without works is dead. Right. So it starts with a positive mental attitude. But if you just have a positive mental attitude and you do nothing, you will get absolutely nothing.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of people go wrong, is that they don't realize that it starts with your attitude. For instance, if you're thinking negatively about something, so if you say it's impossible for me to get
$1 million,
$1 million, then your thought process is going to stop you from taking the action that would actually take for you to make $1 million, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But if you said that it is possible for me to make $1 million, and in your thought process, you think about it, you believe it, it's in your subconscious, I can be a millionaire. I am a millionaire. Mm-hmm. When you have that type of thought process, you will now begin to act like a millionaire. You will move like a millionaire. You will take the actions that a millionaire will take, and eventually, if you believe it, and that belief turns into massive action, you will make $1 million.
Yes.
So I think that, I think that it's important that we just don't leave it there, that we don't just leave it at you have
happy
to think
thoughts.
positive.
Happy thoughts. And it's so interesting, what comes to mind is the J.K. Rowlings, the Oprah Winfrey's, the Tyler Perry's, those people who had a dream, had a vision, and pretty much set everything else aside and followed that feeling within that I might not see it now, but it's going to happen. Oprah talks about when she was in the field with her grandmother at age 4, and her grandmother's one desire was for her to find a really rich and nice white family so that, she could serve them. And I actually had the pleasure of attending one of her conferences where she said, I wish my grandmother was alive to see that now I have some really nice white people working for me.
Right.
And that was at 4 years old.
Right.
So that one thought followed her throughout her whole entire journey of finances, of career options, and most likely in her personal life, where she recognized that something was different. Tyler Perry spent all of his money, $12,000 life savings into his show. Probably about 5 people showed up, but just recently Forbes named him one of the highest paid entertainer in the U.S.
Wow.
And that was because of a thought. It wasn't because everything around him looked pretty.
Right.
It was the fact that he had this vision, this goal, this idea, and he took the necessary steps to make it happen, and he's reaping, the rewards of it. So definitely putting your feet to the pavement when you have that idea,
right,
and actually making it happen.
No, absolutely, and that's key, because again, faith without works is dead. If you don't, if you don't put the action into it, then your thoughts are just going to be that. They're going to be thoughts, and you got to get busy. Get busy doing.
And the sad part is that it goes for negative thoughts too. A lot of stuff that we see in the world, those things don't just randomly happen. These thoughts, were meditated upon by the people who actually took action, whether it be this young man who, took the lives of these police officers, or the police officers who, are committing these crimes and these actions. Those were thoughts first. Mm-hmm. Those were things that they meditated on, whether it was concrete meditation or if it was just an idea of fear. That's another thing. Dealing with fear, dealing with faith, dealing with those things that shape and mold your perspective. You have to recognize that this law is working whether you like it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. You think good thoughts, carry out those actions, things will work out, and the same goes for the other way around.
And it's funny that you mentioned that as well, because I think about this a lot, and I wonder how the focus on the negative for us as people, mm-hmm. right? I wonder how is that affecting us as a people, because when you think about other ethnicities that have been through hardships, and we've been through a lot of hardships, so in no way am I trying to downgrade or minimize mm-hmm. What hardships we've been through. But when you think about other ethnicities who have been through hardships, a lot of them receive reparations and receive, are doing better. And I wonder, we focus on the negative so much, and I'm happy that there is a movement that is bringing light to the injustices that happen. But part of me you know, as a positive thinker, as a you know, mindset architect, where I help people change their mindsets, I wonder if we focused on more of the positive that's happening, more about the 12-year-old African-American kid who has the same IQ as Einstein, if we focused on people graduating from college instead of coming home from jail, if we focused on some of the positive things, the MBAs, the doctors, the lawyers, the people in the community doing good, I wonder if that would change the trajectory, you know, because we sort of glorify it, right? Whether it is the media pointing the finger at it, or if it's us, and we're, you know, taking that sort of victim mentality of saying, you know, because I'm black, I'm targeted now. You know, anything that happens to someone, they, you know, want to kind of, you know, bring that out and say it's because I'm black. So I wonder, you know, I wonder if that's, you know, if that's part of the issue is what we, you know, what we put a spotlight on.
It's so interesting you say that, because I believe at some point some of our people start to believe the stereotype. They start to believe what's being fed. So they are mirroring the things that they're hearing, the things that they are taking part in, the things that they're seeing. It's almost as if they're eating it, digesting it, and then they're carrying it and they're embodying it. You know, I overheard an elder on the phone with maybe cable or something saying, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm a poor black woman. You're believing that. For you to actually voice that, you're believing that. If you're saying it's because I'm black, you're believing that. You're believing because you're black you can't do or achieve A, B, and C. And you know, we spoke about media and how, yes, media portrays a certain image, but we have the ability to turn it off. We have the ability to change the channel. So what are we allowing ourselves and our children to actually digest, and then to mirror, and then to embody? And I always speak about, you know, your media diet and what is it that you're eating, and how is that really helping you?
All right, so we got some callers. Let's see what the callers have to say. Hi, good afternoon. You're on the line with Ash Cash and Tashima Jones.
How are you?
Hello.
You know, I was just listening to you, and I was thinking, you know, a lot of times when people come home in the evening, first thing they do is turn on their television. And as opposed to that, you know, it would be really nice if our community would make it, it should be even an unwritten law that we don't turn on the television until a certain time.
Absolutely, yes.
And we're going to sit down, and we're going to wash your hands. You're going to sit down. We're going to eat. We're going to talk. You're going to talk while I'm cooking. Or we're going to cook together, and we're going to talk, and we're going to have conversation. You know, a lot of times you can find out a lot of things that's going on with people, you know, whether or not they're depressed, or whether or not something good has happened for them, or maybe something is not. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's what you don't say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But while we're doing a lot of positive thinking, also, and I understand what you mean, because you can say to someone, oh, you know, so-and-so graduated, and you can hear crickets.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? But
when Ty come home, we you know, we throwing a party. Come home from jail.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Or I've seen young people who are at a computer, and they'll take their basketball and they'll put it up on top of the desk. This is where you just came off the street.
Right. Right.
You take you've been, and you don't know where the ball has been. You've been bouncing it all over stuff. And you sit there and you play games. And you got a basketball in your left hand, and you've got a mouse in your right hand, and there's no book to be seen. There's no ebook.
Right.
It's just cherries and lemons and, you know, all
jelly
these
beans.
games. It's something wrong.
Right.
Something wrong there.
Right.
So, you know, but in the same breath, while you're doing all this positive thinking and you're changing your life and doing positive things, you still have to be realistic and understand that, you know, there are forces within your life that are doing everything to try to unchange what you're trying to change, so that when it walks upon you, you're not like oh my God, what's going on here? Because a lot of us really believe that because we haven't been touched by it.
Right.
And then even when it touches us, we go into this denial, as opposed to if you're given the tools, when it comes up on you, you're like, oh, okay, so I know what this is about.
Right. No,
I know I have to put my hands up. I know I have to do this. I know I have to do that, as opposed to, well, I don't know why I should have to do it. Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Because your mother doesn't want to bury you at a young age. That's why you don't have. That's why you shouldn't have to do it.
Right. No, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
know
so
what I
much
mean?
for the call. I truly appreciate you. And that was actually awesome. A great point. When we talk about reality, thinking positive is definitely not about putting away what is. Right.
It's not ignoring what's in front of you. It's having the power to usurp it, to move through it, or to find a way out from
Absolutely.
it. And I think, and when we say positive, it could even be considered healthy, a healthy mental attitude. And just to go back to what the caller was saying, about having this law, that law might not be in New York City, but it could be in your household.
Right.
You can lay down that law and say, you know what, we are going to, it's so funny because when she said, you're going to sit here and cook with me, that touched me. I can get kind of emotional, and I wanted to, bust a tear a little bit, because that is family.
Absolutely.
That is how young men and young women learn how to cook for their family when they get older. It's those traditions, those values, the morals that I feel like we are kind of missing out on in this space. In time, and that's so important to really establish those things within your household. Another thing she said was about being realistic, and I feel like because of the world we live in, positivity, it's been made to be unrealistic. Right. But
right.
it's an option.
Yep.
And I always tell my son Justice, you're gonna see good and you're gonna see evil. Always choose the good.
Absolutely.
And that can be your reality. Another thing was the forces. It's a battle of the mind. And people are not realizing that when you are out in the street, like, you are carrying energy and you are embodying a thought process and a philosophy. And oftentimes we don't have to necessarily tell our children, this is how you act when you see a police officer. You say, respect yourself,
right,
and respect other people. And those things will fall into place.
Right.
So it's really life skills. It's really, choosing a healthy way and a healthy image within your mind. So go ahead.
All right, let's see what the other callers got to say. Caller, you're on the line with Ash Cash and Tasima Jones. How are you today?
Yes. Hey, thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure. Thank you for calling in.
All right. It's Jay Smiley from the village of Harlem. I wanted to place some of that energy. You're both hedging into the positive area, but some of that energy, like you say, without good works or without having a discipline to place before you, an example of the discipline, and what we call a goal, will also just change that positive energy into a negative source. Mm-hmm. And I'll use it as an example. A lot of people feel neutralized because we are a good people. We are of a good ilk in this society, and a few bad apples will change things. But the presentation that I would like to throw out as an example is that, yes, positive energy in a negative way would be maybe an example of what insanity is. To do the same thing over and over every day and think that something is going to change.
Yes.
And I think that that's one of the things that might be passed over when we think of raising our children. To let your child sit there and listen to the same message, the same 10 songs every day, the same mentality being expressed by the media, the same examples that are being transferred out into the street. The same children stand on the same corner.
Yep.
The same, the same so-called thugs, as they name them, ride the subway doing the same thing every day. Where are the positive examples so that you can say, curb your behavior because of this?
Yes.
But one of the main things that I would want to then leave you with is that, yes, be positive, but also further education and get into activities. Get your children into some activities. You don't want them to go astray. You know, there are disciplines that they need in life.
Yes.
And until you go about the business of gearing them towards some outside activity other than just what the norm represents, then yes, you're going to have positive energy churning into a negative field because their brains are moving much faster than we imagine.
No, absolutely. Smiley, thank you so much for that call. That was awesome.
That was good. He mentioned discipline, which is super important. It's like once you discover something new, you have to practice that. Absolutely. And then after you narrow that down, you get that, then you have to elevate it. And you know what he said about further education, doing different things, doing new things, not allowing that that positive energy to just stop and become stagnant, because once you go idle, that's when you get into a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. Idle mess gets you into something.
I'm not gonna go there.
Idle time. That's what I meant to say. Idle time gets you into idle mess. That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna take a quick song break, but we'll be back shortly. It's the Ash Cash Show with Ash Cash and Tashima Jones.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Well, give me all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Hey, go. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Hey, go. Bring me down, can't none bring me down.
We are back, the Ash Cash Show, every Sunday, WHCR 90.3 FM, New York, the voice of Harlem with Ash Cash and Tashima Jones.
Yes.
So we're gonna wrap up our positive mental attitude show with some tips.
Yes.
Right. So I I don't want to just leave you with this idea that you need to be positive.
It's almost like a challenge too. We're gonna challenge our listeners to actually try to adopt, and implement, some ways to establish that positive mental attitude.
Absolutely. So, tip number 1, which is how to create a positive mental attitude, is to create positive self-talk. And what that is simply what you tell yourself, which is the most important conversation you will ever have in life, is the thoughts that you tell yourself. There are going to be tons of people out there who are going to beat you down, tell you what you can't do, tell you why it's impossible. But you have to be able to create positive self-talk. Tell yourself, whisper sweet nothings in your own ear and tell yourself how special you are, how you can create the life that you want to live and you deserve to live. Tip number 2, it's something I call see more, be more. A lot of times, and we spoke about this earlier about reality, the reality is relative. Reality is based on experience. Reality is based on somebody else's experience. Sometimes reality can be different based on what you see. So if someone has never saw a positive role model or something that they could aspire to be, then maybe that's the lens that they're looking from. But if they can start to witness other positive things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be witnessing it physically, right? It could be whether it's books, whether it's television, whether it's documentaries, whatever it is, you have to see more so that you can be more. See more so you can understand that there's more out there. A personal story that I'll give is that, when I grew up in Harlem, 129th Street, 8th Avenue, St. Nicholas Projects, 129th Street and 8th. Hey. You know what I mean? When I grew up, anybody who's from Harlem and grew up in Harlem knows that when we said that we were from so we were going downtown, we didn't mean Battery Park. We were on 12th Street, right? and if we were saying we was going uptown, we meant 155th, right? So uptown and downtown was really that 45 block radius. But as I started to work and just experience life and go out of state and just do all these different things and learn other cultures and even learn more about my culture, I started to realize that the visions or the pictures I saw in my everyday life wasn't life, and that's what made me curious to see how far I could take life. So it's important that you see more, be more.
To piggyback on what you said, one of my mentors is actually Harriet Tubman. Never met the woman in my life, but I read about her, and I feel like I carry part of her essence with me. So your role models don't have to be people you see on your block. You can actually choose your role models. Go get a book, look at a film, and really do your research and discover the accomplishments of other people and allow that to be, one of the mountains that you step upon to really get to where you want to be in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Step number 3, fake it till you make it. And fake it till you make it does not mean that if you want to be a millionaire, you go buy a Bentley or a Mercedes-Benz. Because actually, a lot of the real millionaires, the millionaires I know, they drive Fords.
And Hondas.
Yeah. And yes, So, but fake it till you make it, right? So what that means is, once you identify what you want to be in life and who you want to be, then just be. Right? Don't find excuses as to why you can't do what you want to do. Just start to be. So for instance, if you are currently working at a job and you aspire to be the manager, then don't wait until you actually get the promotion to do it. Start to be that manager in your mind. Start to act like the manager, walk like the manager, talk like the manager. And the more you start to fake it till you make it, you'll actually start to become that person, and eventually you'll actually get what you want.
Pardon me, but let's change that to think it until you make it.
Or think it till you make it, right?
Yeah, something like that. And I've said once before that Oprah Winfrey is the same person she was when she was 4. She's that same person. It's just the course of life and her thoughts and her actions, and of course the universe conspiring with her that brought her to that level. So Tashima Jones, I'm the same person I am now.
Yep.
I'll be that person when I'm a millionaire. We're still the same people.
Because you are a millionaire.
Yes, I am.
You are a millionaire
Yes.
right now.
Thank you.
So can I hold something? Because I need...
We have to talk about that.
Number 4, which is read thought-provoking books, and we spoke about that, and that's very key. That's very key, because anything that you are going through, there's nothing new under the sun. Anything that you're going through, there are people that have been through it, who have overcome it, and if those books are being hidden from you, which they're not really necessarily being hidden, but if you don't know about them, then of course you're not going to seek it. But understand that whatever you're going through, there are people who have been through it already. Read thought-provoking books. It's okay, and this is step number 5, which is limit your entertainment. It's okay to watch, entertainment, but you have to limit it to a point where you're not consuming yourself with only things that are just making you, afraid, happy, whatever it is. You need something that's gonna provoke your thought,
like the Ash Cash Show.
Like the Ash Cash Show, right? So don't only listen to things that are just going to give you, like the caller said earlier too, that it's programming. It's the same 10 songs over and over and over again. When you look at some of these movies, it's the same theme over and over and over again.
Actors, yeah.
And subconsciously, it's depositing things. I read something recently that said that your subconscious thought is 30,000 times more effective than your conscious thought, which means that if you're consciously thinking about something, right, that you consciously think about it, right? But when you have the subconscious creates more than your conscious does. So when you're listening to certain music, when you're watching certain television, when you're doing, you're depositing negativity into yourself, it's doing 30 times more damage or good. So that's why you have to limit your entertainment.
And it's so interesting you say that, because I believe that once you start to change your thinking, your entertainment will change.
Absolutely.
Your choices will change. Your behaviors will change. Where you go will change. So really focusing and recognizing that you don't live from the outside in, but you live from the inside out. So that's super important to remember and to understand.
Absolutely. And last but not least, number 6 is be grateful. Gratitude. A lot of times people are not grateful and don't realize that they have a great life, that they are fortunate. There are people who are in worse situations. And if sometimes, we're so focused on getting to a destination that we don't actually realize that life is the journey. That as we're trying to get to this destination, we're missing the scenery. We're missing the beautiful, the beautiful scenery that's happening while we're in that journey. So be grateful. Have, show some appreciation for the life that you have right now, because there are people who are, and everybody has struggle is relative. So everybody struggles because everybody's dealing with something, but don't look at your struggle and not realize that in that struggle you have blessings.
Yes, and just to add to that, recognizing that there's so much negativity going on in the world, but use that to fuel your gratitude and recognize that, yes, I see these things happening, so I am grateful for ... So that's really, really important. Just like you said, being grateful and understanding that. For example, I was thinking about this the other day, how we today live better than kings did back then. We have flushing toilets and running water.
Absolutely.
And they were kings. So understanding just how times are changing, always thinking that things can always be better, but being grateful for what you have in this moment.
No, absolutely. So those are the 6 tips. Create positive self-talk, see more, be more. Think it till you make it, or faith it till you make it. Read thought-provoking books, limit your entertainment, and be grateful.
Yes. And I guess it's time for I Need More Money.
I need some money.
I need more money. Besides being grateful for everything that you do have, because I think gratitude also attracts more in your life. And speaking in terms of money, Spending less and making more. Oftentimes, it's not necessarily that we have to do more. You know, people say, I need another job,
Right.
or I need another hustle. It's actually looking at your spending habits, recognizing what you can do without, or what you can find an alternative that may be of less money, but still just as good, and going with that. Recognizing that instead of going out to the movies, let me get an $8.99 Netflix account.
Right. Nah, absolutely.
Or, you know, just really like discovering the alternatives. Go to the matinee versus the evening show. Doing those small things can definitely generate more income. Or not necessarily more income, but you'll have more to put towards your savings or some form of investment and bettering your life.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So the time goes by very, very quickly.
Yes, it does.
But, you know, as always, I enjoy, you know, spending this Sunday afternoon with you folks, because you know, you guys are what gives me the positive energy to know that I'm depositing some positivity into your life. So, you know, I know we talk about, you know, what we're gonna do this week to change the world.
Yes.
So talk to me, Miss Tashima Jones. What are you doing this week to change the world?
To change the world, I actually want to help more people.
Okay.
And actually being present, even if that helping is just simply listening a little bit more, or being honest, or visiting somebody, or going to. It's so funny. I was thinking I want to help somebody, and then like 2 minutes later, somebody called me needing my help. So, so I just want to extend myself a bit more to people, and really help other people a little bit more.
No, absolutely, absolutely. We have Ricky Young in the building. Mr. Ricky Young, how are you, sir?
Yeah, pretty good. I just came, you know, from my apartment. I almost got late coming to my show, listening to the show called this Ask Cash show.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Late, so that's good. Very positive, very positive.
Appreciate
But one thing is, I have a friend, Sade, who I'm working with. She has 2 small children, and every morning she feeds them personal development.
Yes.
Powerful.
Yes.
Yes.
But what I wanted to ask both of you, Ash and Tashima.
Yes.
Tashima
Jones.
Ooh, wow.
Powerful, right?
Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown. You know, Tamara Lee, she was like a superhero back in the day.
Yeah.
Yes, you got a superhero name. So, basically, because I noticed that a lot of people have not discovered that power that's in them.
Yes.
And the question is, how did you guys discover your power? You, Ash, and you, Tashima Jones. Tashima.
Yes, Tashima.
I could tackle that first. I think for me, it was realizing that people were lying to me all this time. So growing up, I grew up in the projects. I grew up...
Which projects?
St. Nicholas Projects on 29th Street, 8th Avenue. So
I grew up in Grant.
Okay.
So yeah, we're neighbors, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, growing up as a black male, they told me I would be dead or in jail by 25. They told me what I couldn't do. This was the language, or this was the message that I was hearing every single day. And because of that, I did begin to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I got kicked out of school a lot of times. I did you know, some things that growing up in the inner city you would do. But my first job, I saw a young man who wasn't African American, but he was my age. He was like 20. You know, I think I was 19 when I started at the bank, so he was around 20 years old. And he was my manager.
They gave you a job in the bank?
They gave me a job in the bank.
God.
You know, they gave me a job in the
He
bank.
attracted a job.
I attracted, yeah.
They
Thank
didn't give
God,
it to
thank
you.
God for that, right? And the person who was my manager, he didn't look like me, but he was 20. And the message that I heard growing up was that I needed to work hard and go to school and do all of these things. And, you know, I had to sort of wait my turn to get, certain positions in life. And at that moment, I realized that I was being lied to. And at that very moment, I started to rechannel my energy. So the same energy that it took me to be successful as a negative human being. And when I say that, you know, is when I got in trouble in school or when I was doing things in the street, that same energy, I was successful at it. I just changed that energy, and I was able to thrive. I became a VP at a bank at 24 years old, which was something that I wouldn't think in my lifetime I would be able to do. So that's the, you know, for me, it was just realizing I was being lied to. and knowing that you know, Tashima said this earlier, is that you are who you are. You just gotta focus your energy into the right direction. So you know, I'm probably the same person that I was at 8 years old, right? Because at 9 and 10, I was packing bags at the supermarket. I was always a hustler. I was always an entrepreneur. But now, as an adult, I'm just focusing that in a different way. Tashima, I could go on and on. My fault, but you know.
I realized my power when I graduated from college, worked at Fortune 500 companies, worked in real estate, got married, had a platinum ring, driving a BMW, in a house, and I wasn't happy. That's when I realized I had to sit down, and I realized that there was more to life. And when I had everything that was supposed to make me happy and I wasn't happy, I realized that there's something wrong with this picture. And I sat down at the table with a pen, pad, and a Bible, and I asked, who am I? Everything else is history.
Wow. Okay, one last quick question. This is a very important question. The mind scientist.
Yes.
The mind scientist.
Mindset architect.
Oh, your mindset architect. Ooh,
Yes, sir.
mindset architect.
I'm about to trademark that because you was listening. I'm about to trademark
Yeah,
that real
get that.
quick.
You better get it quick. So I was blessed. I was given the blessing when a 14-year-old young man came to learn and be, to learn. Now you have an opportunity to have an impact on a young 14-year-old guy. What would the first thing you would tell him?
The first thing I would tell a 14-year-old is really go from within, right? Understand that you can do anything that you want to do as long as you're going from within. Don't listen to the outside forces. You are powerful, and you can do anything that you put your mind to, and just not be smart enough to know when to quit. And that's an important message, because a lot of times we try stuff and then because it doesn't work out the first time, we have the habit of quitting. So understanding that it's always too early to quit, that no matter what, if you want it, don't make an excuse, just make it happen.
To add to that, when I was 14, I lost my mom.
Wow.
And what I would say is that your current circumstances doesn't define who you are. And what you're experiencing at this point doesn't define your future. Understand that as you mature, you become wiser, you will then be in the driver's seat with someone else there by you, that invisible being that is always there. But eventually you'll be able to influence and impact your environment versus it impacting and influencing you. Because I think sometimes our youth don't feel like they have power.
Harlem has its own radio station.
For you and yours,
WHCR 90.3 FM.
the livest party in the whole universe.
The voice of Harlem.
See, what y'all didn't realize is that young 14-year-old man is standing right here in the studio right now listening to y'all now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kevin Wilson.
Kevin Wilson, what's up, Kev? How you feeling, brother?
And y'all also didn't tell him about all the distractions. There's always so many distractions out there.
Yeah,
What about that?
I feel like everything, I explained this earlier where I teach my son now. He's going to be 8 years old. I teach him you will always see good and evil, but you always have to choose good. Because I'm at this point where I want to shelter him and cover his eyes for everything. But when he goes out to school, these elementary school kids know a lot more than they should,
Right.
you know? So there's always going to be good and evil. You just have to choose good. And that's the reality of the situation, recognizing your power to choose and then making that choice, even if you're standing by yourself.
And that's why I started to say, I started out by saying that you got to go from within, right? Because if you know who you are and you know what your values are, you know what you stand for, even as a 14-year-old, it's very difficult for someone to persuade you to do something if you know who you are. What happens is that when you don't know who you are, then anybody who tells you who you are it's gonna sound like they're right. All they have to do is convince you. If you're swaying a certain way, if you don't really know who you are from within, then when someone starts to tell you who you are, you're gonna believe them. And again, in my case, I didn't know who I was. Single parent home. My mother, worked hard to put food on the table, so she wasn't around. So I was running the streets at an early age. So my role models were telling me that I was a criminal, that I had to, I had to hustle. So all of these things that I was being told, I didn't know who I was. I didn't realize that I had the power to be whatever I wanted to be. And when I started to look at my so-called role models, they're dead or in jail. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to go to jail. So at that moment, I said, wait, it has to be a different story. This cannot be my fate. And when I started to look inside of me and say, you know what, this is who I am, those distractions didn't happen. I grew up in the 90s where, the gang culture kind of plagued Harlem. So all of my friends, most of my friends, are either Bloods or Crips, and they got into to some of these things that I just refused to be a part of, because I understood my power. I understood, what I was put on earth to do, right? And there was a quote that I put out on Facebook recently that said I was created to create. Right? I'm created to create. So as a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, I don't care what your age is, you're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. And you have to understand that purpose. You know that purpose. Yes. But what happens is that, again, we listen to the outside world, and the outside world start to dump things and tell us what our purpose is. And then we don't follow that intuitive hunch, that gut feeling that tells us that we were born to create.
And when you discover who you are, don't be afraid to be that. I think oftentimes, like for me, I knew that I didn't want to do certain things, but I was afraid to be myself, because I realized that the moment, that day when I wrote "Who Am I," the moment I started to the moment I started to follow God, the moment I started to follow my calling, was the most chaos happened in my life. That moment when I stood up for who I was on the inside, people left. I lost a lot of the things that I had, and I found myself standing by myself. But it was the most rewarding experience I've ever had in my life. Yep. So once you discover who you are, be that. And everything that's supposed to be in your element will be there.
And that's a great point that she makes, right? A lot of it's about perspective. We spoke about perspective earlier, right? Is that sometimes we might look at things and think it's negative, and, why did this person leave me? Why I don't have these friends, or, why am I being ostracized? But it's a great thing, because for me, when I had my transition, at 17 years old when I got a job at a video store, and I was working, and my friends would look at me like, why aren't you on the block with us, right? But now, 15 years later, 20 years later, not 20 years because I'm not that old, but, years later, I now could look back and realize why, certain people were taken out of my life, why certain things happened, even the most negative things. Like I had friends that I thought that I would lay down for, turn their backs on me, and I didn't realize why, but I was true to myself. I would never, and Kevin, I would say that to you, never ever go against who you are. Yes. You know who you are. Never go against that. Never try to fit in. Why try to fit in when you were born to stand out?
Yeah. Now we got to get ready for what's in your hand.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, us giving us.
But I definitely next week I want to talk to you, because one of the things is I want to show you. I have a book that costs $995.
Nice.
I want to show you that book.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to show you that book, and I got something else I want to talk to you about next week as well. Is that okay?
That's
fine. We'll be here. Same time, same place.
Imagine a book that costs $995.
I was like, I'm a finance guy, so I want to understand the mathematics.
It's called The Millionaire Maker. That's the name of the book.
Okay.
Interesting.
And he says if you read this book, he promises that you will become a millionaire.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And for
I know he's becoming a millionaire.
Right, for the $995. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you, Ricky Young.
Yes, sir.
We're going to switch up.
Yes.
Hello, and welcome to today's lottery drawing. Good luck. And here's today's winning number.